Happy Halloween, everyone. Well, I know we're a little bit early for Halloween, but the spirit is still here. I am a bit of an enthusiast when it comes to Halloween. So, of course, I know we're a few days early, but I wanted to embrace it anyway. And why not? Because when we're here at Pink Pixels, it's not just about, only looking professional and having great conversations. It's about how are we as human beings embracing the things that we love? How do we showcase and share all of these things that excite us? So yes, hello everyone. And here in this small little excitements or passions, I bring in a little bit of my own costuming to share with you all. And hopefully as you go throughout this weekend, we prepare for Thursday, Halloween, that you embrace that as well. I know as adults, we don't always make time for it, or we do it as a last minute thought. And whatever it is, and even if it is, I hope that you have the chance to embrace a little bit of fun, that you take the chance to dress up and do maybe your favorite character from a book or TV show or movie or video game or whatever it is, because there's something really powerful of embodying one of your favorite characters, the energy they have, the stories. And speaking of stories, we have an amazing individual who's helped tell many characters' stories over a variety of mediums and has a very fascinating story herself. So let's turn it over. Everyone, please help me welcome Katiana. Katiana, say hello to us.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. It's really cool to be here. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm an actress. I act in games and animation, and I'm really excited to talk about a little bit about what I do.
I love that. And you are so humble, right? Like you've told and worked in so many different great stories, even iconic
Mhm.
franchises like Genshin Impact, which is
Mhm.
huge, well loved. Admittedly, is one I have not played because I know it's too big of a game and I'm a completionist and it would drive me insane. But even like Barbie, right? So you were in Barbie Doll Adventures, Mermaid Reveal. Like, oh my goodness, especially with this revival of Barbie has. And Barbie has always been a little bit more of a modern woman in the stories they've been telling. How exciting. I gotta know, what is it like to take a part into such big stories, right? Where they're so loved and there's huge fandoms that are a part of it.
It's really cool, and it's also it's kind of because I'm pretty new to this, to be honest, compared to some of my peers. But
Mhm.
getting to meet fans is when you kind of realize how big the thing you're in is.
Ooh.
I was able to go to a mini convention in San Diego a couple weeks, no, maybe a month ago, and just seeing everyone come up to me and be like, "Hey, I love your work in this game and that game, and it's so cool to meet you." And
Aw.
just one person even said like they were also Armenian, and they came up to me and they're like, "It's so cool to see someone that's like me in this game that I love." And it was a really cool moment, and I was very moved. And I think that memory is going to be like one of the keepers throughout my entire career.
I love those moments, right? Because they
Yeah.
resonate with you. Now
Mhm.
you're currently in your space, which is very different, right? Like you are in a
Mhm.
quiet little booth with tiny space and no room, like no really even shoulder room, versus like
Yeah.
you finally get to go out and you meet people, right? And you're talking to
Mhm.
them. I gotta ask, when you're in this booth, how do you put yourself in the mindset to bring out such amazing voices, full on
Mhm.
personalities, really?
Yeah. So I'm sitting down right now, but usually I'll stand up. Behind I have like kind of a two-tier desk thing going on.
Hmm.
My laptop is up here, my
Hmm.
monitor's over there. So when I can stand up, I can still read like the lines.
Hmm.
And then for auditions, I kind of have as much time as I need to kind of read through the side and read what's going on with the character, their backstory, where they are. And if I don't have that information, then I can make it up on the spot just so I can have a strong choice for the casting director.
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes to when I'm in a session, right, and I'm doing a virtual session or I'm going into the studio, um, either the director tells me or the client, or sometimes I'll ask, like, hey, how many people am I talking to here? Is
Mm.
it a big crowd? Is it like a little office, just to kind of make that read more specific?
I love that. It kind of feels like we're
Mhm.
getting a little bit of like behind the scenes, like what your process is. Do you have a
Mhm.
routine? Like so many of us like wake up, right? We do our cup of joe, do our morning
Mhm.
poop, do our commute to work, you know, and then we answer emails and then we get into things. What's your routine? Especially because each project is different. Do you
Yeah.
set up a routine that helps you get into that mindset to ask the right questions?
Mhm. Whenever I have a session, like on a certain day, like I'll make sure earlier on I would if I had a session in Burbank at like what 9 or 10, I'd
Yeah.
kind of wake up like maybe an hour before
Okay.
at most, but I've kind of
Good idea.
realized that um I'd prefer kind of waking up earlier, like
Hmm.
around 7 or 8, just so that I
Okay.
can kind of wake up fully, listen to like a playlist of a character. I love making playlists for my characters,
Ooh.
and kind of listening to that, trying to get into their headspace. If it's a returning character, if it's a new character, I'll review the audition again. And that's kind of how I proceed. I don't love long drives. I'm not going to complain. Work is work. But
Yeah, we'll take
but
it.
if I do have a long drive, then usually the playlist will come in there, and I'll
Mhm.
like kind of get to listen through a bunch of stuff. That kind of reminds me of the character.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that idea. The playlist idea, as somebody who does D&D, I feel like
Mhm.
that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Like anyone like make a playlist for your character. Like what embodies them? What's their rock music? Is
Mhm.
there a playlist that you've done for a character that you still listen to?
Yeah, so I also do D&D playlists too, and I
What?
love doing them so much.
I'm just going to
It's
tell you,
like,
I'm falling in love with you.
oh,
Keep going.
thank you. You're super cool too. I'm like so happy to be here. But yeah, it's really fun because like I
Mhm.
have one character who's like more edgy, and so she kind of listens to like almost like teenage angst music, and
Yes.
and then another character, like I know from Mawika, like I made it classic rock. So there was
Oh,
like Firewoman, I think was the first one. I think there's some Pink Floyd in there too, like a bunch of
yes.
different stuff. So I love listening to them, and even once I'm done recording, like I'll still go back to old playlists and stuff like that because I love my characters, and I always feel like whenever I record something, I
Mhm.
like put a little piece of me in them. So it's nice to revisit that.
Oh, I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's so sweet. But because you get attached to them, right? It's this
Mhm.
connection as much as, right, you've put voice and energy and emotion, right? You don't want to lose them once you're
Mhm.
finished with the work. Like there's an investment that's made there,
Yeah.
a relationship, a bond. I think the playlist is something so beautiful that you can revisit, but also like it is nice to come back and embody them every now and then. Is it kind of like a memorial of sorts that you've created, like that you can relive them through the playlist?
Yeah, I think that it's always nice because when I listen to a certain song, even when it's not in the playlist or I'm just like going around in the real world and
Hmm.
just I hear a song that reminds me of them, it's always like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, this reminds me of that session where I did XYZ and da 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 da." But it's really sweet, and I love,
Oh.
I've always been a big, like, music fan, so I
Hmm.
think it was a really fun way to kind of incorporate that into my, like, routine for getting into character and stuff.
That's such a smart thing. Like if this is something that already syncs with you, like how you embrace life, you're like, we're gonna have this before our characters too.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
some actors have a tendency to like steal things from set when a show or a
Mhm.
project ends. Besides the playlist, are there other little mementos or ways that you continue to hold on to those characters? Maybe like an art piece, or I know some people go as far as like tattooing or.
I have been thinking about it. I haven't gotten a tattoo yet of a character, but I have some ideas,
Mhm.
either of like a fire sign or something like that for Mawika, or some other characters that I can't talk about yet, but I also like have already grown really attached to.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking about it, maybe one day. But I think I've seen some really great tattoos that actors have gotten that remind them of their character. And I think it is really cool, and I do want to get one day. It's just making up my mind, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's fair because it does stay forever. So I respect that. Take your time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's one of those like plan out the whole thing first so you can know the placement of it and where everything's going to
Mhm.
fit. Smart.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
like even with stickers and stuff, I always have to get everything and then like plan it out and then try it another way and then like another third way and then make up my mind. So
Mhm.
it might take a second.
If only you need the temporary tattoos first to like test it out. Be like, okay, yes, I like this placement
Yeah.
here. Now I can
No,
commit.
like
Yeah.
we're joking about it, but I looked into it at one
Yeah.
point. I did.
Hmm. No, no, no. Yeah, but it's a good idea because I get it. Like
Mhm.
I think it's because you and I have a similar wavelength on that. Like even as kids, right? We never
Mhm.
got put stickers on anything because you didn't want to commit. And if you didn't
Yeah.
use that thing anymore, like if you put it on a notepad or notebook, that thing would be gone in a couple of months. And now you've lost that very precious sticker, which was probably only
Mhm.
worth 2 cents and you got, at a fair somewhere, but you don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah. And like you got it at a fair somewhere. What if that fair never happens again? Then
Yes.
no more other sticker. Yeah.
Yes. So you'll put
Anyway.
it in a drawer with a bunch of other stickers that you'll then forget about,
Mhm. Yeah.
but at least it's safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
For
this
real.
speak to our ability to not make committed decisions?
Well, I think it's so fair to like take time with decisions. I know like
mm,
it's actually really interesting because I think I'm like a super analytical person and like when I
yes.
make decisions in real life, I am
Hmm.
very cautious. And I like think things through a million times, but then acting is so like instinctual
Hmm.
that it's interesting to me, that I ended up here. Because like, well, in an audition, you can think about it a little and you can break it all down, but then when you're in the booth and you have
Yeah.
like sessions, like you have X amount of lines that you have to get done in X amount of time, it's like you're banging out lines one by one, you know? So it's
Hmm.
like you gotta be quick on your feet, and just be super instinctual. So it is interesting that I do this now that I think about it.
Is that freeing? Like it activates now different parts of your brain. Like you love to be
Mhm,
analytical, logical, like when you're making decisions, commitments, like this is where I'm going to live or the car I'm going to purchase,
mhm,
like you over research it versus
mhm.
when you're in your day job, you're like, let's just see where this goes. Let's test
Yeah.
this. What a well-balanced person you must be then. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun, and I think, like, it took a second for me when I was, like, studying theater in college and stuff
Mm,
to realize that I just had to just go for it,
yeah.
but now that I'm at the stage of going for it that I am, I think it is freeing, I think.
Hmm.
And it's also nice because I mainly do acting, but I also direct sometimes for like Fallout 76, which I'm really thankful that they keep bringing me back for that. So directing is again that kind of like I was very into like English and the humanities.
Hmm.
Directing is like using that part of the brain. It's like the analytical, how does this character fit into the story? It's a bunch
Yep.
of puzzle pieces.
Hmm.
But again, balancing that with acting, which is again very instinctual, is like it's really cool that I get to have both because I think just doing one wouldn't make me feel as fulfilled as I am now, like when I get to do both.
Hmm. There's the complement of it where you feel fully
Mhm.
activated as a person. The strengths that you have wholly and you've developed. That's
Mhm.
impressive. So you have a theater background. Were you also
Mhm.
contemplating like a math background as well, like
My
a
it's
degree in
it's funny.
economics for fun?
Well, my parents wanted me to major in business, and I did. And I only, like, minored in theater, but I
Really?
yeah, because they were like, "No, you gotta get a good degree, you gotta go to a good school, and you gotta get a very stable job," and I was like, "I'll tell you that I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna."
Mhm.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so I was like, "Yeah, I'll go to USC and study business and go to law school for
Yeah.
sure."
Absolutely. That's definitely the
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, no.
So obviously you deviated from law school. You like waved at it as you drove past.
Yeah.
Uh and that takes a lot of strength. Breaking
Mhm.
away from what parents suggest, risking it and going into the creative arts, right? What made you willing to take those steps, able to take those steps? Because that's a bold endeavor. I love it. I love it. And a lot of people
Yeah.
are asking, like, how do I become brave like that? How do I set myself up that I also want to be able to do that?
hmm Um, honestly, the thing that made me want to try was just, well, what if? Like, what if I
Ooh,
could? You know, it's like, well, everyone's like, oh, entertainment's so hard to get into. It's like, no, you need stability in life. And I was like, but what if I tried?
ooh,
You know, just
yes.
like because I think it's one of those things. Like I see memes sometimes where people are like, I just realized I had free will, and they like do something crazy at like
I
an
can eat
ungodly
dessert
hour.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I go with it.
And so I was like, sure. Like I read an interview because I loved choir, I loved musical theater and doing
Mhm,
plays in high school. And I remember reading an interview senior year of high school where oh, and I also loved games growing up. Like I
yeah.
was always like a gamer.
Mhm,
And so I read an interview of like Max Middleman and Robbie Damon and Ray Chase because they have like a little like trio thing going on.
mhm,
Um, and they said that, or two of them said that they had studied theater at USC and then that's how they got into voiceover. And I was like, oh, what if I do that?
mhm.
You know, like
Yeah,
what if I'll still have a business major degree to fall back on,
right.
maybe, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
but I
there.
could try,
Yeah.
you know? So I was like, yeah, I'll just try it, see if
Mhm.
it works. And it has, fortunately.
I love that. Like that, but that's part of it. Like it wasn't just like flying things out. You're like, let me do a little research.
Oh,
What have
yeah.
others
Mhm.
done? Right. And then you
Mhm.
took steps. But that's the biggest thing is a lot of people will get stuck at the research. Like, I know these things are
Yeah.
done, but they don't go with that step forward. And I love that you're like, let's enact this free will. Let's
Yeah.
actually test these boundaries and look where it's gotten you. Right. Some of
Yeah.
these so well loved voices, these characters that fans love, that you love, right? It's truly very rewarding. I am so
Mhm.
excited for you. Is
Oh.
there a particular character that you're like, I'm so glad that I've had the chance to voice them, to bring them to life and what they've created in here, or project perhaps?
Yeah. Well, it's tough to like pick a favorite because I think
Sure, we're
yeah,
not supposed to have
yeah,
favorites.
everyone always says, like I remember, like because I when I did my research, people would
Yeah,
be like, "Oh, do you have a favorite
yeah.
character?" And people would be like, "Well, it's hard to pick favorites." I'd be like, "Oh, come on." But I
And
feel
here you are.
because I think it changes, right? Because
Yeah.
you live with a character at a certain point of your life, and like
Mm,
I'm not like I don't have a bajillion roles under my belt. So each one, as of now at least, is super precious to me.
mm,
And I've grown with that character in some way, or they impacted a specific moment in my life. But I think the first thing I have, yeah, I think any theater experience is really helpful. Sometimes my mom will be like, "Oh, would you have rather, you know, majored in theater, not done business, or
mm.
would you do anything differently?" And well, in general, I never want to like tempt things and be like, "Oh yeah, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and
Yeah.
change things." I'm like, "No,
If
no, 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 leave
only.
everything as is." Um, but I do think like going to business classes, learning how to have that more practical approach to getting what you want was really helpful. I
Mm,
don't think I was nearly as like shrewd as I am now. Um, and I think I can thank the business program at school for that. And at the same time, I'm really grateful for the theater stuff and, you know, not only the acting classes, but we did like a backstage course where we had to help a play as stage crew. And I was like, that's a really cool experience that not everyone gets to have. And it you know, even though I'm not performing on a stage, I can still recognize, okay, without the engineers, without the mixers, without everyone, like this doesn't happen. So again, I think every experience just is so beneficial and so
mm,
important to have. So if anybody wants to do voiceover, um, I would recommend getting theater training and then from there doing workshops specifically in voiceover and then, you know, maybe down the line demos and agents and all that stuff.
That's such
Yeah.
good actionable advice, but I love the
Mhm.
balance that you still bring of saying like I like that I got my degree still in business. I like
Mhm.
that I did the backstage work because it gives you such a holistic mindset. And again, it does lead back
Mhm.
to your lesson, right? In that you want to gain life experience anywhere
Yeah.
where it is. It doesn't have to be just through this one lens and that's the only direct pathway. By taking these stepping stones back and forth that kind of dot alongside your ultimate
Mhm.
goal, you've really diversified what you bring to the table.
Yeah. I like to think so.
I'll back you on that. It sounds right to me too. Hey,
Yeah.
is there a particular character or experience when you were in the booth that you're like, oh, this reminds me of, and a personal experience that you had that you like had to draw upon?
Yeah. So
I assume it's
when
not
I
mermaid reveal where you suddenly like remember you became a mermaid once in your life.
well, no, not that one. I mean, I did love, like, I grew up on Barbie Mermaidia, so like
Yeah.
I still was like, oh, it's like a mermaid Barbie, and I got to, when that was released, I got to tell
Mhm.
my sisters, and they were like, oh, it's like the character, and I was like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in terms of like, besides like the theater class story that I have,
Mhm.
Mawika actually, like, I drew a lot of like family stories from, because the whole thing she's got going on is that she's trying to um save her people, and they're going through a crisis, and there's war and a lot of unfortunate stuff going on.
Mm.
um I'm not going to spoil anything, and I'm going to make sure I'm not saying anything that isn't out, but when I first got the audition, I was like, okay, I know who she is. And when I was recording for her, again, it was a lot of like, I was drawing from my family's stories, because my family's from
Mhm.
the Middle East. And so, my grandparents lived through war. My mom and dad, before they came to America, they had their own stories. And it's all this like heartache, and they didn't shelter us from the stories. They're like, no, you should know your history,
Mhm.
and how you should be grateful for all the experiences you get growing up here, where it's a lot safer um than like an active war zone.
Yes.
Everything's relative, but yeah, so I channeled their stories, and I always kind of kept that close to my heart when I was recording.
Mm.
And sometimes some people, when they recount stories that are traumatic, they're numb. They're numb. Sometimes they're more emotional. Sometimes they're angry. Sometimes they're like, well, what if we can make it better one day? So thinking about all that, channeling all that, yeah, that's kind of what I thought about when I was recording for her.
Yeah.
Um, if that answers the question.
It does. It does. Because you have to draw upon that experience somewhere when you
Mhm,
see these characters and they're going through struggle or they're trying to process trauma. As you said,
mhm,
like it's our own life experiences that help inform it. So obviously, like when we joke about mermaid reveal, you're not actually a mermaid, but you still have to find what are those emotions that allow you to
mhm,
understand, to process, that make us human, and more importantly, that make us relatable. And that's why people end up
mhm,
liking the characters because even though they're not always emotions that we like to feel, they're
mhm.
very real emotions
Yeah,
and how we see them that makes them memorable. So,
yeah.
mm.
Yeah, not to get dark.
No, but that's part of the human experience, right? Like that we understand like it's the full spectrum.
Yeah. Mhm,
And
and
we
I
go for it.
sorry.
No, no, all you.
No, no, and I am really grateful that, like, they picked me for that project, because it kind of helped me kind of go back to, like, my roots kind of, and
Mhm.
I don't know, something again just clicked in my head, and, like, the next time I saw my grandma, I was like, "Remember what she's done for you, to get you here." So, yeah, I'm really grateful for that experience.
Isn't that such a fun reflection?
Yeah.
When we create characters, like it's you investing in this, but you're creating a small mirror for yourself that you can see and understand your own stories, your own history, your own experiences that allow us to better understand who we are personally. What a gift those
Mhm.
characters give us.
Yeah. No, it is really like,
Oh,
it's crazy to me that, like, because again, when I was growing up, I was indecisive, I didn't know what I wanted, and with
yeah.
acting, like, every character, I'm doing something different, right?
Hmm.
One day I'm a mermaid, one day I'm fighting in a war, one day
Yeah.
I'm, like,
You're in
a
space.
goddess, one day I'm in space.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to go through all those stories and live through them because a friend actually told me once when they were reflecting on one of their sessions, but they're like, your body doesn't know the difference between reality and make believe when you're in the booth because if you're acting and you're like really locked in, those the adrenaline is still there, the heightened senses, the blood is pumping, and when you're like doing like call outs in like a fighting game, right?
Hmm.
And you're like, oh, okay, well the director's like, okay, well now you've been hurt in your shoulder and there's blowback and you like you feel it. So when you act that out, you kind of your whole body tenses up and you're using your muscles, and it's really interesting that like in the moment it's like your body is experiencing that.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is that's so profound, right? And it's understanding
Mhm.
like your body doesn't know the difference. And that's
Mhm.
true. And that's like that's valuable of like any real immersive story. Heck, even gamers might feel this. Like when they're so into
Mhm.
it and they're making the decisions, it's just as real as any experience that they might have in real life. The
Yeah.
relationships they have, the friendships, the challenges, the character and personal growth they go through, the lessons they take from that. It's just as real, just as valid as anything else that they might have. Even
Yeah.
more so, though, this is different because you're part of that creation process and you're deciding what you put this character through. Like, yes, they say like you're hurt in the shoulder, but you get
Mhm.
to decide what that looks like. You get to
Mhm.
decide what that sounds like. You're the one who chooses to say, okay, let's get that heart rate going. I'm going to start sweating here in this small booth, right? So you really have to do a lot to commit. Is that
Mhm.
something that you often see some individuals trying to get into voice acting struggle with?
Um, I mean, I definitely struggled with it. I
Sure.
remember efforts, which is like the like attack and like the hurt sounds that you do when you're in combat.
Hmm.
Those were tough for me when I was first learning how to do this because you can learn about like Uta Hagen's questions and like all that stuff and like the Meisner technique and stuff. But oh
Yeah.
my God, I hope I'm saying them correctly. It's been a hot second.
You've
Um,
read it. It's different when you have to say it out loud. You're good. It just shows you're a reader. Okay.
um, but like you can learn all the classical like technique to be a good actor. But
Mm,
then when you're doing like fighting combat stuff, that's a
yeah.
different muscle. And unless
Ooh.
you've taken like stage combat training, which I didn't take at school, it is completely new. So it's like there is a little bit of like I would have to listen to other games and like how those efforts sound in order to kind of learn how I could make my own version of that, if that
Mm,
makes sense. And then again, it is really helpful when you have like a director that is very specific about what they want to.
hmm.
Like if it's just three attack sounds, it's like, okay, what am I attacking with?
Yeah. Who am I
What are we
attacking? Are
doing
they massive? Is
here?
it tiny? Are they
Mhm,
squishy? Yeah.
exactly. But then if the director gives that specificity, then it all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got it. I know what you want now.
Hmm.
So it's like it was a process for me learning how to do efforts when I was still in school and taking classes. I'd like to think I'm better now. But yeah, it is a fun part of VO, and I think it's really cool because I heard a director's perspective, and they absolutely love efforts because of how specific they got to be. And it's like, okay, it's the
Mm,
body. It's we all have one. We all are somewhat like familiar with how different things make us feel. So
yes.
then being like, okay, so if we're in a shooting game and we're gonna attack this part of the body and it's gonna sound like this, it's hearing her perspective was really cool. And it
Oh.
made me appreciate efforts more.
And now you share
Yeah.
it with us. We're going to be listening for this in game, like not just the dialogue, but what are all those effort sounds that come through to be like, oh, that's unique. Can you imagine them doing this in the booth? So you really have to be a bit of a world builder as well as you have to mentally
Hmm.
paint this scene, imagine what that pain feels like, who you're talking to. There's so much more that you have to create. It's a bit of an imaginarium that you set into instead of a sound booth.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. And I think like I've told people before, I think good directors would make really good DMs in D&D.
Mm,
Because I feel like it's the same muscles. It's setting that picture for you for the players or the actors to kind of get immersed in. So it's really cool. But I actually asked one director after a session once,
hmm.
would you ever DM for D&D?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I kind of do that already for a living, so I kind of want to unwind.
It's for fun. Don't make
Because
me
they
do it for
already,
pain.
yeah, yeah. Or sorry, they because they kind of already direct for games. They were like,
Mm,
that's a little,
too much.
too similar. It's like
Mhm.
once I do my work, then I have to do D&D DMing. Nah, I'm okay. So that was their response, which was like, fair enough.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of the next part is like there's balance because with voice acting, I think a lot of people might misunderstand how much I'm going to
Hmm.
reuse this word effort, right? Goes into it here, right? They just assume like
Yeah.
you go in, you read some lines, right? It's one take and you're
Hmm.
done sort of thing. But it's a physical exhaustion that you go through. And it's important that you
Yeah.
do create that boundary of this is work versus this is my free time, like as a normal individual who wouldn't want
Right.
to do any other job 24/7. Oh,
Yeah.
are there other misconceptions about voice acting that you think people often might keep in mind of even as simple as like, yeah, it's easy. Voice acting's easy. All you do is you hop on the booth and you read some lines and you're done. If you've ever
Yeah.
sat through a classroom and heard somebody try to read a passage out loud from a book, you know it's not easy. We've all sat through English literature in high school. It was painful for many of us, okay? Reading it out loud is not easy.
um, Let me see. I had a train of thought and then I
Mhm.
lost it. Well, I would just say like going back to the boundary thing, because
Yeah.
I remember when I was starting out, right? For me, it was like, okay, in school was my work, and then
Yeah.
doing work on my career in VO was like my free time thing.
Mm.
And now it's like, okay, well, now that I'm working and I'm in sessions or I'm recording auditions or something, that's like if you aren't careful, that can take up all your time. And it's because a lot of us are passionate. We get into this because we love games or animation or,
Mhm.
audiobooks and stuff like that. But I think finding a healthy balance is really important. And I'm still working on it. I've been reading a lot more. I've been, taking time away from the mic more recently. But it is still something that I think about. And it once you're in the industry, it kind of changes how you consume media too.
Mm.
Like games, I no longer look at the same way. And shows, I'm like, oh, well, I recognize this person, and so it kind of takes you a little out of it personally. It's like it's
Aw.
not a bad thing per se, but it is a different view.
Your
So
immersions change.
it does, yeah, it changes for me. And so it's if that kind of is um a good glimpse into, I don't know, misconceptions and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's kind of what I have to offer on that.
No, I love that because
Mhm,
it's a new level of like how you perceive and take in art when you are
mhm,
actively a part of art, right? There's different viewpoints. Art changes depending on your vantage point, whether you are the creator, if you are a fellow creator, if you're used to that medium, is it different medium?
mhm.
All of that informs how we perceive and understand. And so I'm glad that you clarified that at least you can still enjoy TV shows and
Yeah.
video games.
Yeah,
It would
no,
break
for
my
sure.
heart and be like, oh, she used to love this.
No.
But you now learn and appreciate different elements
Mhm,
about it. And you
Hmm.
might picture
Hmm.
different people and how they're creating and doing the efforts or the dialogue or however
Yeah.
what other words we might have in there. It's a
Yeah. No,
process.
yeah, it is a process, and you kind of become more aware of the process, which is
Mhm.
why I look at things a little differently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still love playing games and, watching shows with my friend. Like, I'm super excited for Arcane, super excited for I started playing Metaphor Refantasio,
Ooh.
because I'm a big like Persona Atlas fan. So I'm excited. I've been playing through that. Super fun.
Mhm.
Music's really, really good. Um,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, it's really cool. And then yeah, I think yeah, that's all I got to say on that.
That's perfect. There's no desired length, but that's good. Like that, it just now you've evolved as an artist, right? And that as you
Hmm.
take it in, and I'm glad Arcane seems super exciting. And it was called Metaphor.
Yeah, Metaphor
Okay,
Refantasio, I think
that
is
is
what
a
it's called.
beautiful
Hmm.
name. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I have to see this written before I attempt to say the full name because I know I'm gonna butcher it. I need to see
I'll
it written
send
out.
it to you
Yes,
later.
help me out. Help me out.
I got you.
But
Yeah, but it's a turn-based game if you oh,
oh,
I cut you off, I'm sorry.
cut me off whenever. You're good. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's a turn-based game. Is that always
Yeah.
been your kind of game of preference?
Yeah, I love turn-based games, like the strategy stuff. I love. I do like the, you know, I forgot what they're called. Like the hack and slash too. Like I'm a fan of that too, but
Okay.
turn-based games for me is always like what I go back to. Like the first game I
Mhm.
think I ever played was Pokemon, like
Yep.
Fire Red, Sinnoh, like because I played it on my cousin's DS and then I got my own version. So Pokemon was turn based and that was like the start, and then from there it was a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, but
I forget
yeah, my
that. But yeah, Pokemon was. I guess some of those games you just put it in a
Mhm.
nostalgia genre for me.
Right.
And I'm like, I never think about like what type of game it is. It's just like it's just old.
Hmm.
And it's a classic. Okay. But maybe that's me defining ourselves now as old and classic. So
Oh,
yeah, it's fine. We're allowed to age.
yeah.
But yes, and again, that's again playing off of like both halves of your brain since you like to be
Hmm.
strategic, logical, that you get to challenge yourself in that way. It, that's very
Hmm.
exciting for you. Now, of course, you're endeavoring on to continue to do more voice acting. Are there particular types of
Yeah.
roles that you are drawn to more? When do you know like certain things are the right match where you're like, you know what, I want to put in a reel for this?
So I like think I typically book characters that aren't really like me. Like I think I'm
Sure.
pretty like enthusiastic and bubbly, but I book a lot of the stoic like straight man types. Um which is like I don't think I'm like that.
Yeah.
I can have my moments where I'm like a bit more like aloof maybe, but I don't think that's who I am as a person. But I do tend to book those types of characters, like either I don't even know. Like the like I guess Hecate is like oh sorry. What did you say? I'm I think I might be having technical
No,
difficulties.
you're good. I forgot. Every time I
Oh.
hit my mic down here at the bottom, it sometimes turns off. That's on me.
Oh.
No, but yeah, you got to make the connection for me. What is that to be like,
Mm.
this is not me, but I want to voice them, right?
Well, I mean, I tend to submit for like everything that my agent sends me, but like with I guess because I have like I think there might be more resonance in the deeper part of my range.
Okay.
So I think I guess people like that for like the stoic kind
Mm.
of no nonsense types.
Hmm.
Or maybe I just am really good at pretending like I'm stoic and no nonsense. I don't know.
Lean into it.
But yeah, like that's kind of the typecast that I get.
Mhm.
But also it also depends on I think the type of game or show. Like the more serious like Western stuff, games and animation, games and pre animation.
Mhm.
It's like they also like me for accents. Like I'll
Oh.
usually always be like the evil Russian lady or like the you laugh, but like it's true.
Fair. Okay.
That's the typecast, I guess. Or like the commander and they'll bring me for like a um I've done a Turkish accent before, I've done a Persian accent before. So they like because I mean we're from that part of the world, so I always it's in
Yes.
my ears. But but yeah, so I usually it's a lot of accent stuff for Western games. I've done some British ladies too.
Mhm.
Um, but it's those more mature, calm voices or just straightforward, straight-laced types. Um, and then yeah, that's usually what I book. But then it's always so fun when I get to play something that isn't that. Like when I booked
Yeah.
Mermaid Barbie, I was like, really? Me?
Let's go
They
for
want
it.
me? Okay. Because even though that I like, yeah, I love to be like a fun little girly, having a picnic with her friends and
Yes.
doing all sorts of Barbie doll stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
It it was so different from what I normally book that I was like, this is really validating that I again, I will never complain about work.
Right.
Um, and having it, but it was kind of validating being like, oh, I can do more than just one thing.
Mm.
So I'm really grateful for the roles that are outside the typical typecast too.
Well, I'm sure it's exciting for
Yeah.
you to feel validated in the breadth of your
Mhm.
talents and what you can do, and to have the chance to stretch your wings and say, I want to see what this looks like.
Mhm. Yeah, that was such a fun session, and I remember the director too was there, and she had like a little like again going back to Mermaidia, Barbie Mermaidia, like there was a
Mhm.
little like poster of Bibble from Barbie Mermaidia in the corner of a room, and I was like, oh my god, like this is so cute. We're just like girls doing work together. It's like so fun, and it was like so Barbie,
Yes, it's so Barbie, and that's
um,
what Barbie should be doing. Okay, I'm glad that they're
yeah.
living up to it.
Mhm. It was so fun, and I remember I actually, when they I because not only is the show, like, the little mini series on YouTube,
Mhm.
but they also have a doll for her that you could get, like, at Target, and I remember I was visiting my parents back in, like, September, and, we went to Target and we got the doll of
Oh my
Mermaid Reveal
god.
Barbie, and
That's so
and it
cool.
was really cute because I think again like voiceover to my parents is so like what is that? For the longest time they were like what is that? How many open job positions are there a year in that? I'm like guys, that's the kind of they don't know what it is,
Yeah.
and there I should probably explain it to them better, or now they know, but back then. Um, but showing them the doll and like showing them the show, the animated clips and stuff,
Mhm.
I think they're like, "Oh, I get it. This is
Yes.
what she does. That's really cool?"
Mm. Well, and
So it was a really cool moment.
it really kind of shows sometimes we're best as visual learners. Like it's one thing to hear
Mhm.
like, yes, there are opportunities. Yes, I can do this. I'm applying, right? And it's another thing when they can see the clip itself, like, oh, that is your voice coming from her. This is the
Yeah.
doll that I can buy at, Target, right? It's a different level of understanding. I wanted to
Mhm.
go back to the accents because I think that's really interesting
Mhm.
and fun. Is there a responsibility that you feel you have to bring forth whenever you bring out voices that are representing specific parts of the world?
Yeah, so it's been a great like push towards like authentic
Yeah.
performances recently.
Hmm.
And so whenever like there's like accented work, and my agent already does a really good job about this. Uh like whenever they want, like let's say my auditions that I get are usually open ethnicity,
Hmm.
no accent, or like Middle Eastern character,
Hmm.
and they want this accent. So
Hmm.
usually like when I get either it's like a vague any Middle Eastern country for the accent, or they'll be specific.
Hmm.
So if I feel like from my family's, heritage and like where they've because we've kind of been displaced all over.
Right.
If it's of the countries that they've been kind of scattered to, then like if I feel comfortable that I can accurately portray this,
Hmm.
then I will pull up some clips, listen to the native speakers, and then go for it. But if it's not something that I feel comfortable portraying, I'll be like, I just won't submit.
Hmm.
But usually my agent's already really good because I've told
There's
them my
alignment.
background so that they have all this information. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, again, that first role that or one of the first roles that I did, they wanted the Turkish accent. So I called up my Saturday school friend's mom
Aw.
who lived in Istanbul for like a majority of her life before moving
Yeah.
to America. And I was like, "Hey, I know you have this accent. Can I record an interview just talking about your life and your experiences in Istanbul so that I can not only get that cultural information, but also just have more
Mhm.
of your voice in my head so that when I go in, I can make sure this is appropriate."
Mm.
And so I did that. It was like a fun like catch up time because it had been a while. The last time I talked to her was I think before COVID.
Mhm.
Um, it was a nice. I think I did her justice. I think I did the story justice, and I'm happy that I did that.
Yes.
I don't think I have as much time now to do a full on interview for every audition,
Right.
but I do try to find clips online too, just to make sure I have that
Mhm.
and I'm approaching the role or the side the right way.
I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. And the responsibility that you take there because, all right, these are real individuals. And the fact that you are not just recording the voice, but like you wanted to do the cultural understanding or recognize
Mm,
your own ties within this to embrace that. Because, right,
mhm.
when we're telling games media, like you were right to call it like we're moving towards authenticity, that we're wanting it to be real and human and not these
Mhm.
stereotypes, these cardboard cutouts that we create for the mere sake that often ends up othering individuals more so rather than creating actual understanding. So
Yeah.
what a beautiful interview that must have been just to sit and talk to her and ask her about like her history, her experiences, what it was like for her to grow up. Oh, I hope she kept it at
Yeah.
least for her own family archives.
Well, I have it still on my laptop. I don't think I ever sent her the version of it, but I will probably text her soon and be like, "Hey, just letting you know about this thing and this is why I recorded you by the way,
Yeah.
in case you're still wondering." But yeah. Yeah,
Aw.
I think I actually learned about like I practiced this whole like process with accents
Mhm.
in college because I took an accent class
Mhm.
and our teacher was like, "Hey, before we did like a British unit, we did a what else did we do? New York and
Oh.
then maybe something else, I forget." The New York one was like the last couple weeks of class, but we picked like a borough of New York too and kind of like
Ooh.
learning about all that stuff because New York accent, what does that mean, you know? New York is like giant.
So many
So
voices. This feels
again,
like My Fair
yeah.
Lady that you're doing right now.
Mhm. But so it was important to again be as specific as possible if you're gonna do a good job.
Mhm.
But yeah, so she was the one who encouraged us, hey, this is the unit we're on, this is the accent we're learning. This week's assignment is to find someone who has that accent and interview them or find interviews online. And then the next one was learning shoot, I forgot what it was called. It was like the IPA maybe. This kind of
Mhm.
basically these symbols for like phonetic sounds and stuff like that.
Yes,
And then you
the
know what I'm talking
IPA.
about?
Yeah. Yes, the International
Yeah, yeah,
Phonetic
yeah.
Alphabet. I have the book
Mhm,
somewhere in my Oh, it's right here. Yes.
mhm.
Well, this is
Yeah, so we
American English one, but yes.
yeah. Yeah, and we learned that and we would practice, you know, transcribing monologues into
Oh,
those symbols and stuff like that. I don't
that's
think I was good at it, but it helped, I think.
That's so hard. That's I had a friend who could take notes like that. Like she could actively listen
Mhm.
to teachers speak and she would write it in the phonetic alphabet. And it was like, you are so impressive as a human. I hate you how
Yeah.
talented you are. But it's such a smart way to start
Hmm.
processing and understanding voices. I First of all,
Hmm.
kudos to your teacher for teaching that too, because it's so important of like teaching not just the skill, but how and why we
Hmm.
do it certain ways. So big
Hmm.
claps for that.
No, she was awesome. I should email her and be like, "Hey,
Shout
it's
out.
me. Thank you."
Yeah. She'd love it.
Yeah, no,
She'd
I
love
think
it.
she yeah, no, she was awesome. I think she trained, like, Chris Hemsworth in, like, accent coaching at some point for, I think, maybe Avenger I'm not sure. But no, she knew her shit. Yeah, she
That's
was
amazing.
awesome. And she was also, like, not like, she wasn't just gonna hand out A's, like, you had to work for it, but I was like, "But that's why we're here.
Yes.
Like, I need to learn how to do this appropriately." So,
Yeah.
I think she was one of my favorite classes, yeah, at
Oh,
school.
I
Mhm.
love that. I mean, but again,
Mhm.
it clearly has impacted your own philosophy now, right? Now that you're out of the classroom, all of these
Mhm.
decisions ultimately come down to you and how you want to be responsible for yourself and the roles that you
Mhm.
play. And I love that you bring such care, but also I can see like when you take on certain roles, like the way you talk about like the excitement you have and talking about like your own family, all right, you
Mhm.
just light up on that. And I think that's also why certain characters are just so much more fun because you can hear that heart, that realism, that
Mhm.
actual care that comes from voice actors like yourself, that real talent that is
Yeah.
embedded in love. That it feels like baking, like
Yeah.
it's made with love. But in this case, it's the voice,
Mhm.
like it really is made with love. Like there's real effort and thoughtfulness behind it, not just this is a funny voice that I can do in the shower. That you've put into
Yeah.
play.
Mhm.
Mm. Oh,
No, yeah.
please go for it. Yes.
Oh, no, 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 I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I always love that. So please never hesitate to do that. Uh, I want us to be thoughtful in time. We have gone our first hour, which means it's about time for us to take a little bit of 5-minute breather, stretch a little bit,
Okay.
refill our water cups because neither of us have taken a drink of water throughout this entire thing. So we are clearly dehydrated. So, good friends, same with you all. Let's stand. We're going to take a 5-ish minute break and then we'll be back to finish our second half. We'll see you all in a bit. my friends, we have returned. I know you all were waiting with bated breath. It is I, CausticPhoenix, your host, alongside Katiana, and a talented, amazing actress in this space. And we were talking about the different voice acting gigs that you've done. Now, when you hopped into this, right, and you even mentioned to me separately, right, a lot of voice actors bring in an immense amount of energy and they kind of go full throttle with it. Like imagining like Goku from Dragon Ball Z, and they're like, I have to go all out as I do a Kamehameha, right? And it wrecks the voice. Now, especially when your job is, well, vocal techniques and performance, that kind of feels like you're attacking the moneymaker there. How do you make sure this sucker stays in its prime, right? To be able to do all the tricks and sounds that you want to be able to create? Because you yourself have experienced a little bit of fatigue and sickness yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I learned the hard way, I think,
Yeah,
when I was like
that's fair.
first first starting to book things. And again, because I think one of the archetypes that I have is like the warrior lady, right? So a lot of like projection and stuff. So I I did not know
Mhm.
better and I overworked myself, XYZ, and then one thing led to another and I started to feel a lot of strain here.
Oh.
Um and it affected like recording auditions at the time too and stuff, and I was like, well, that's not good because then how do I get more work?
Mhm.
And so I actually ended up going to an ENT. They used a scope to check out what was going on in the vocal folds and stuff like that. And they were like, you need to go to vocal therapy and learn how to use your instrument properly. Um, so I,
They were happy throwing a little bit
I,
of shade there. Like, okay.
Mhm. They probably didn't say those exact words, but that was kind of the gist of what they were saying. And I
Fair.
was like, okay, fair enough. Um, cause I think, I had done choir before.
Yeah.
So I had done like warm-ups for
Mhm.
choir, but then there are specific exercises that they taught in therapy, like lip trills, which singers will probably know. But then also something called straw phonation, which is like when you hum scales through a straw. I wish I had a straw to
I know.
demonstrate, but I don't. Sorry.
What?
But yeah, and then even something like I don't know if there's a more scientific word for this, but I basically had to like blow bubbles too while humming and going like "Woo," while blowing bubbles, and that helps. That helps, which sounds
Okay.
so crazy and silly, but it there's a scientific reasoning for it, which I can't explain off the top of my head. But it's called strophination, for the straw thing, and it helps with like aligning the vocal folds in your like larynx, maybe? I don't
Yeah,
know, that might be
sure.
wrong,
And this
but,
thing
it
in
basically
here.
aligns them. Yeah, in this area of the body.
Yes.
And it helps you realign everything so that when you vocalize, you're doing it correctly and in the right way.
Wow.
Um, and so that's something that I learned, and then I kind of was like, "Okay, well, I'm better, so I'm gonna stop now." And then sure enough, it happened again. So
Ah!
since then, I've been very, like, very, well, more regimented, and I'll make sure to do strophination and, like, the little bubble blowing,
Mhm.
at least once a day.
Okay.
But when I was hurting pretty badly, it was, like, 2 to 3 times a day that I would do that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, maybe my voice is just not as good as others at aligning, but, like, to me, I'm, like, always super scared that it comes back. So
Yes.
I'm always, like, on top of it now.
No,
Yeah.
that's so important. I love it. And you're right. Like it's doing it a little bit every day is such a smart idea too. Just not only as a
Mhm.
preventative measure, but as like a good warm-up measure just to keep yourself active. It's like Dwayne the Rock Johnson still works
Mhm.
out every single day whether he has a movie or not, which I feel like he always
Yeah.
has a movie now, so maybe that's not the case. But right, like it's about keeping that muscle memory active. It's about preparing your
Mhm.
body for those moments for science reasons, right? We don't have to
Right.
explain it, but we know for science purposes, All right, it
Mhm.
helps. It protects,
Yeah.
it helps, it strengthens, and allows you to make sure that you don't get hurt in that process. What was it like when it wasn't going the way that you wanted? Was it painful?
It was really it felt really like I felt really lame, which sounds like silly, but like I
Oh,
felt like, okay, I've worked so hard and then my own like mistreatment of myself caused this. And
yeah.
now I can't record and do the thing that I want to do and worked so hard for. Like what?
Hmm.
That's annoying.
A little shame on
but
yourself. Like, no, why?
yeah, like I was like, come on. Really? That's why, I went to vocal therapy and I learned and I was like, okay, this is the right techniques. And then I had to learn again. And now I know for sure what the right steps to take are. And then also
Mm,
just like when you have like a vocally stressful session, like the battle chatter, the barks and stuff, the efforts,
mm,
usually what I'll do is like make sure I'll try not to talk the day of. And I'll try after the session to again not just be on vocal rest.
mm.
And a friend, well, they're more of like an acquaintance. I'm not super close with them, but they're a friend of my friend, and and they'll say like every like either Saturday or Sunday they'll just be on vocal rest the entire day, and they just won't talk at
Wow.
all the whole day. Every week they have like a designated day. And I'm like, that's really smart. I should do that. Unfortunately, I love yapping, but
You just need to
I'll
find an
incorporate that
alternative.
too.
Yeah, just bring a little dry erase board around. Wasn't there like a kid's book of like a trumpet swan that did the same thing? I
Maybe.
don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making up stuff. But yeah, like you bring out that or like a little LED scroll that you can just type and it says it for
Mhm.
you.
Well, what's crazy is, like, I remember the first time that I hurt myself, like, it was when I was still in school, and I would have, like a little text thing that I would just hold up in class as if, like, the teacher
Oh,
called on me, and I was like, "Sorry, guys." Like, it was really bad the first time that I messed up my voice, but we're
wow.
better. But
Yeah.
this is why vocal health matters.
Vocal health matters. Take care of
Yeah.
yourself. Yes. So yes, when you are in restaurants, even with all your other voice actor friends, and you're allowed to blow bubbles into your drinks. It's not considered rude. All right, you're allowed to do that. It's for your vocal health.
Yeah. And then, like, there's a bunch of teas that I love, like, there's something called throat coat tea that's really nice,
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard of that.
is it just honey and tea? That's what I would imagine.
I think it's almost like it tastes almost licorice-y.
Oh, mm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry if
I'm not a
anyone's
fan of
yeah.
licorice either, but it helps soothe the throat a lot. So I
Okay.
recommend throat coat tea, and then there's something called, I think, Nimjam,
Mm,
which is like an herbal supplement thing. Um, I think it's Chinese, but
okay.
I'm not sure. But it's like almost like it's like molassesy. It's like honey and a bunch of other stuff. I think I recommend that too. They have it in like a little jar, and then there's also like the little convenient packs, which are in
Ooh.
little tubes. So I love like putting that in like my thermos with the throat coat tea, and I'll drink that too. And I'll make sure I have like a bunch ready for like session days.
Plus,
Yeah.
then you get to feel like a little bit of a potions master as you like pour it in. I do that with my
Yeah.
little lemonade mixes. I'm like, I feel like a little magician here.
Mhm.
But it's good. Like you have to think about what do you put in your arsenal to help protect yourself. And I
Mhm.
feel like for if
Yeah.
even for those listening who are not doing voice acting as a career, if you've ever gone to a convention and the next day your voice is sore because you've been yelling at people all day trying to talk in there,
Mhm.
these are also very helpful for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Oh man.
I've heard like because I haven't gone to too many yet, but
Yeah.
some friends who do a lot of conventions, they'll have to be careful because the next day their voice just might be shot. And then it's like,
Yep.
well then you don't have a session right after a convention. Is something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Hmm. Schedule appropriately, right? Like this is your
Yeah.
job, or you have to balance, or like maybe I can't go to this convention because I really want to do this gig. It's a
Hmm.
balance, or hopefully people are understanding. Like we can't wait to hear your voice in this next thing. It's okay if you don't have to say anything to us, right?
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
you really have to be protective of your health, and I think that's a good lesson of whether it's your vocal health or your mental health or your emotional health. Like sometimes we always have that just voice in the back of our head. Voice for voice actors. I don't know. I thought there was a joke there. Um, but that we just say, well, another line, maybe just only 1 hour more, or right,
Mhm.
we don't trust where those boundaries are, and we think maybe if I just sacrifice a little bit more, maybe if I get a little bit less sleep, maybe if I right,
Mhm.
and that's hard to do. And for someone who is a self-confessed loves yapping, right, that has got to be hard, where you got to say, well, I could say a few more things. I could, go out and hang
Mhm.
out and we could talk all day here. It's just one day, right? How do you
Mhm.
make sure that you don't overextend yourself also?
For when it comes to like the oh, but maybe one more line thing with auditions, a friend, because I overthink a lot with auditions, or I
Mhm.
used to more. Recently I've been like whenever I get an audition, I'll kind of time myself and I'll give myself maybe 10 minutes or
Mhm.
15 max on a longer script. Um, and that will kind of force me to, not overthink things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's tough to like I don't know with the social life thing. Because again, love yapping.
Mhm.
It is tough sometimes. Like
Mhm.
I remember, like I guess at the end of the day, it's like okay, even though you love your friends, even though you love chat, and I'm an extrovert for sure.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes you do have to be like, hey, but I have to prioritize. I've worked really hard to get to where I am. I got to prioritize vocal health to make sure I can continue to do what I love. And if it's close friends or if it's like good friends, then they'll understand if you can't make the thing, or do the thing. I actually had to cancel some D&D sessions when I was like hurting vocally and I knew I had to still record stuff. And I felt bad, but at the end of the day, like, you gotta prioritize. You can't do everything or else you're just gonna burn yourself out, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's always
It's
a
tough,
hard take.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Because you want to say yes. Now I can't relate because I'm not an extrovert, but
Really?
uh, but there are certain things that do energize me. But being
Okay.
right, so being an extrovert, right? You're you get that feedback, you get that energy from
Mhm.
spending time and engaging with others. That is your recharge opportunity. And so that's hard to be
Yeah.
like, I have to rest my voice, but socially, then my battery is depleting. Like it's such
Mhm.
a counter. I don't want to be rude, so please don't take it. Like it feels like such an inefficient build, right? Like if we were
Yeah.
putting you together like a little Lego character, be like, this is not how we min max. How about that for D&D? This
Right.
is not how we min
No,
max
I
this
agree.
character.
Well, just also, like, by nature, I think voiceover can be really, like, you are very isolated. Like,
Yes.
if you're doing audiobooks, you're recording sometimes hours a day by yourself in a little box,
Mhm.
Or if you're going in for a session, then you're only going to see the director and the engineer, maybe not even the director that day, maybe just the engineer. And you're kind of in your, again, maybe a bigger box in the studio, but you're kind of just doing the thing and then you go right back home. So it is important to like also make sure you have a social life outside of the job.
Mm.
Um, because otherwise it's like you're in your box
Mhm.
and then you're in another box maybe. And you go back to your box for auditions.
And then Yzma smashes you with a hammer. Yes, yes, we know how the
Yeah.
story goes. Now, just so we can all picture this, how big is your typical box? Like when you have like actual physical space, like how big are we talking? Are we doing like 4x4, or are you like, no, this is actually tighter or bigger? Like, can you actually hold your arms out fully?
um, I can go like that. This arm is pretty extended. This one is not because I'm
Whew.
kind of leaning this way.
Yes, yes.
But yeah.
Okay.
So it's like an arm out on my left and then on my right, I'm just like that. Yeah.
Partial stretching.
Yeah. But I can what's nice is because I made my booth out of my walk-in closet.
Mhm.
I can stand up fully, which is nice because I'm tall. But like the first booth I ever had that like I booked, actually, the first booth that I had was also I could stand up. My mom and I built it together. But
Wow.
then when I moved here, when I was in school, I stayed at my grandparents' house over the summers.
Hmm.
And so my grandma and I built a booth in her garage, which had a lot
Oh.
of bugs in it in the summer, which I hated.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, this
sorry,
turned really
sorry.
cute to really gross. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, I mean, we dealt with it. We were okay. We managed, but we built it. And that was only space that we had. You know, it's my grandma's house. I'm not going to build it in her house. Um, but I booked some big things in that garage booth. So
That is wild.
I have fond memories overall, even though there were
Mhm.
some yucky bugs that I found in the summer. Um,
You
sorry,
survived,
if people are
persevered
scared
through.
of that. Sorry if I'm like not supposed to say
No, you're good.
anything about.
We didn't
Okay.
get into the
Um,
details. We're not
okay.
describing them.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so with booths, I know it's always people can build them a little different, but overall they are pretty small. Um, I think the garage booth was the biggest one that I made. And that was just because we took like PCP pipes
Mhm.
from my grandma's garden in the backyard. And because she was like, I'm not using these. I don't want you to spend money at Home Depot to get your own. So we washed them and we hand built it together. And so because we had all the material already, we just kind of built around that. And
Mhm.
then we took like blankets that she brought out during like Christmas time from ages ago, and we covered it with blankets and stuff. Like a
Oh,
little fort.
it's so
Yeah.
cute. But
Yeah.
I think that's also a good breakdown because when people go like, okay, if I want to get into this, I need to pay for this. Like, I need to rent out a booth or I have to pay for this really expensive one. But
Hmm.
doing extensive blanket fort building is a really great and incredibly effective way to begin. Especially
Yeah.
better if they're
Yeah.
Christmas blankets, grandma's Christmas blankets. There's certain nostalgia surrounding yourself with
Yeah.
love.
Hmm.
Uh,
No, it's oh, sorry.
no, and you had your mom help you with your first one too. What were
Yeah.
the conversations that you had with her, right? Because she's now buying into it at least enough to help you build
Yeah.
out this booth for you. Was this also part of her
Hmm.
realization to say, like, this is her new insight of like what you do, how you function, right? Kind of like showing your mom, like, this is the office I go to, sort of thing.
Well, so she had kind of been like, okay, fine, I guess I have to support. No, not like I guess I have to support you, but no,
Ah!
I said that incorrectly. No, she. I'll explain that story in a second. The moment she was like, oh, she's serious about this. I'll explain that. But by this time, it was kind of like a, hey, mom, I'm starting to record auditions, but
Mhm,
I would like to treat my space so that the auditions sound good.
mhm,
Because if you just record in a room, the sound waves are going everywhere. So you need to treat it. It doesn't have to be a soundproof room, but it should be sound treated,
mhm,
which means like there's foam or blankets or clothes in the walk-in closet that
mhm,
absorb excess sound waves and stuff.
mhm.
Um,
So
so
like
I
big
explained
open
that to
space,
her.
too much echo. Yes. You're like
Yeah,
kitchen
yeah.
terrible,
So
bathrooms bad.
mhm. Yeah, because like, if you clap, it should sound muted. It shouldn't have, like, a echo of the clap is
Mm,
basically how you kinda check. Um, but so I kind of explained that to her, and she was like, "Okay." And so we made the trip to Home Depot together, and we got all the parts, and we built it in the attic and stuff, and it
aw,
worked, and I think she recently took it down just because I'm not recording there anymore, I'm
mhm,
here.
mhm,
Um but it stayed up for a while, and I'm really grateful that she entertained the idea.
mhm. That's good.
But no, the moment that my mom was like, "Oh, she's serious about this," is my first year of college. I signed up without telling my parents for a workshop or a class that was a couple weeks long, in person because it was before the pandemic,
Mhm,
um, and uh, I had been staying before I became an RA at school.
yeah.
I stayed with my grandparents and I commuted to school.
Ooh,
Um, yeah, which was not fun in LA, but I made it happen, you know?
Yes.
USC is expensive.
Yep.
So I made it happen, and my grandma had Find My Friends on my phone. So in case of, you know, helicopter parents, they're also immigrants, so they get really stressed out of their kids.
Oh.
Valid. It's so valid, you know? She's gone through a lot in her life. Um, so I signed up for my acting classes, and I would leave school early, drive to the workshop, and then like tell my grandma, "Hey, I'm studying for a test. I'll be home late today."
Mhm.
I was lying. Um, and so,
We're not going to share this
because
recording with them later, are we?
no, I mean they know now. They know now, but because but I would do that, and then one day my grandma was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm at school." She's like, "No, you're not." And she saw my location.
Liar.
And so, yeah, she was like, "No, you're not. Where are you? Come home." And I'm like, "Okay, I can't explain right now because I'm in the middle of a class, but I'll explain later." And so my mom calls me. She's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm in an
Girl.
acting class." She's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I was like, "Well, would you have let me gone if I had told you?"
Oh.
And so that was like the moment where it clicked, and she was like, "Okay, this girl
Yeah.
wants to do this thing.
She's serious.
Either, you know, I encourage her and I know what's going on, or she does stuff behind our backs, you know?"
Hmm.
So that was like the moment
I mean,
where
of all things, there
everything
are
clicked, you know?
way worse things that you could be doing behind the back. Our daughter, she's doing
Exactly.
acting. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
good.
And you know, and you know that it was never like you're not allowed to do acting, but it was always like you need to have your priority on a more stable thing. So
Yeah.
I think this was when she was like, okay,
Mm.
she wants to do this. She's serious. She's doing her research. She's taking her classes. So we gotta make sure that she's supported so that I know and I'm aware, or
Yeah.
like my mom is aware and we're on the same page, because otherwise there's just going to be unnecessary tension and lying and like
Hmm.
not the truth happening between us.
Well,
So it worked out in the end.
it's good. Well, and that's because you were committed and true to yourself. Hey, I think
Yeah.
that's a very important story, and I think one that certainly resonates with a lot of kids, and uh, even especially kids who are children of immigrants, right? Of
Yeah.
justifying
Hmm.
the career choice or the lifestyle that you want, and your
Right.
decision has to have such resolve, right? Which is hard to have when you're young and you're trying new things and you're like, I don't really know, but we're giving it a go. And yet you have to act with such absolutism to be believed in that.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's not easy of a path to carve.
Yeah, it's a lot of like fake it till you make it. People are
Yes.
like, "Oh, you're so confident." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I just pretend I am." And it works.
It does. It does. I mean,
Yeah.
you are very skilled as well, obviously. So at least
Thank
you
you.
can back it. But right, but there's that challenge of like I have to take these steps. And
Mhm.
it's not like from the beginning they said like, yeah, go for it straight away. You know, we're gonna
Right.
be absolutely for this. Don't worry about it. Right. You had to come up with a justification and defense for it again and
Right.
again. Like whether it's building it in the attic or building it again in grandma's garage, right? It's the justification of like, even though it's fun to build it, it's like, trust me, this is worth it. Yes, I need to do
Right.
this. And getting them on board to be a part of that process. There's a form of exhaustion that comes from that on its own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did you continue to find support? Not that, I mean, your family can be supportive in other ways, but they weren't quite as
Mhm.
understanding for a while to that same degree of like, what does this look like? Where, is this sustainable?
Mhm.
So where did you find that support? Because sometimes it's great to have that internally, but did you also have any
Yeah.
external friends or teachers or others that said, please keep going? This is something that's important to you. We see what you can do and that this is a good path for you.
Um, I'm trying to I don't think so. 'Cause,
You
like,
are
I know my friends.
amazing.
Well, I think my friends knew that I wanted to do this, and they were like, like in college, they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're so talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
do this audition. Yeah, woo. But it wasn't like I never really had like
Champions.
big doubts, or
Yeah.
champions
Okay.
either.
Mm.
I just like, I mean, this is the thing I want to do. It's going to take a lot of time, but again, that kind
Mm.
of what if.
Mm.
This life is so like to me when I was first learning about acting as a profession, right? I was like, I always thought that was for other kids, not the immigrant's kid. And then I was like, but what if? I want to do that. Like, I'm gonna figure it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'll go to law school or whatever. But
Law school, you can go to law school at any age. It's fine, right? Do the
yeah,
risk
but
now. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
especially because I knew if I figured it out in school, like the thing is that I think is so interesting that I learned is when you're a student, you can reach out to literally anyone and be like, hey, I'm interested in this. Would you feel free to share
Hmm.
your life story and your like information that you have?
Yeah.
Once you're not a student, people don't really look at you as much.
Mm.
People are more hesitant. Like if you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, they're
Hmm.
probably gonna go to the student before the random person that's like maybe looking for a job or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, so I think I also recognized how important it was and how or beneficial it was to me that I was starting this out in school. Like figuring out how to do the thing. Because I knew people would be more likely to help me
Hmm.
if I'm the student. Because then I'm like, hi, I'm a theater student, or I'm a student at this university studying this. I saw you're a part of this college network, figuring out what connections you have at your disposal and then
Yeah.
figuring out how to learn from them and move forward is something that I'm, again, grateful that I learned how to do.
Hmm.
And again, I wasn't like that, but the business school taught me how to really, it didn't teach me like all these finance stuff. It
Yeah.
taught me how do I get what I want. And that's
Mm.
also helpful.
Hmm.
And it worked. Yeah.
Yes. Because there's so many opportunities, but the challenge is those opportunities don't just drop into your lap.
No, unfortunately.
If only if only there's a perfect
Yeah.
matchmaker. Indeed promises like we'll just do the match, right? Like they don't. They
Mhm.
don't. You really have to look and you have to really be your own matchmaker. You have
Right,
to do the effort of finding it and knowing what spaces to go to, being willing to ask, who do you ask? How do you present yourself? How do you prepare
right,
yourself for those situations? Because oftentimes you get one conversation with them to catch that attention, right? Or to prove that you're worth
right.
the time, right? So how do you do all that? And you certainly made sure that you were at such a golden level when you went
Mhm.
into these. Even this interview, you are being so thoughtful, so considerate and open. And that's what makes it a good interview, which makes it a great change that I mean, I'll confess, I like hanging out with you. Right? So like
Oh, me too.
you know how to make a good first impression. I don't know, maybe it's all a lie,
Mhm.
but until we get the chance to hang out. We're like on opposite coasts. I'm in Orlando. So like you in LA is like, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but but this is like you've put in the effort of how do you want to
Mhm.
present yourself, thinking about how do you tell your story. It's not accidental. It's not like this is this fake rehearsed thing. It's you have done the work to
Yeah.
figure out who are you? What do you want to do? And what is the pathway you want to take? It's such a demonstration of powerful reflection. I love it.
Oh, thank
That
you.
wasn't a question.
Well,
Sorry. It
if
was
I'm
just praise. Yeah.
no, no, that's sweet. But
Uh-huh.
also, if I'm ever in Orlando, I'll hit you up.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But thank you. I mean, yeah, I don't know, cause I have never thought that I'm someone who knows who I am. Like, I think that's hard to define.
Really?
But yeah, but at the same time, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just think
Yeah.
I think if you want something, anything is possible. You just have to figure out
Mm.
the steps, and it's okay if you don't know everything right away, but you should like hear from other people's stories and then find, okay, what are the common threads here, and
Mm,
then use that to weave your own path or whatever metaphor you want to use, you
hmm.
know?
Yes, we love
Yeah.
the metaphors, but you're right.
Yeah.
There's critical thinking because, I
Mhm.
mean, as we've dictate or noted before, right? Everyone has taken a lot of different paths to get to where they are, especially
Right.
in voice acting, right?
Mhm.
There's many different ways, different venues, different people, different roles that you can come through and approach this. But it's how do you take all this information and synthesize it to make it unique for you? That was at some point
Right.
you had said this as well when you were even talking about efforts of like, yes,
Mhm.
here's what other people are doing, but how do you make it your own? And I think that's something that you've done professionally as well as like you see the other
Mhm.
pathways that people recommend and you've put it together to make it your own. And that's why you've had the
Yeah.
cool career that you've had is because you've made it yours.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Mm.
sweet.
That's it. We've put it together. I don't it doesn't quite fit into a fortune cookie yet, but it's in progress. But
No, yeah.
let's turn this future focused then for you.
Mhm.
Right? Let's I love the idea of like speaking things into fruition. One,
Mhm.
because sometimes we're afraid to voice things out loud, right? We add pressure on ourselves
Yeah.
even though it's not legitimate and we deserve to have the support of others. For you, what do you want out of your future? I don't care if you're looking at 5, 10, or heck 50 years down the road. If you look at this,
Mhm.
what is something you're like, I hope to achieve this. This is one thing that I want to push myself or at least have the chance to give it a shot.
Um, that's tough.
Yeah,
Okay. So I think like more like in terms of concrete goals,
sure.
I think I want to get into more like prelay animation, like either more stuff like Barbie where it's like prelay
Hmm.
animation, or adult animation is also really cool.
Mm,
Like anything like Arcane, you know, which I mentioned before.
so good.
What is another one that I watched? Or like Legend of Vox Machina, I think that's such a cool series.
Hmm.
Something along that vein. But then also like not as concrete, more abstract. I just like I want people to like who might, you know, also be like the kids of the immigrants, you know, and like who might not see like a creative career as like their future to be like, no, 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 but she did it, I can do it too, you
Yeah.
know, and just like pass that forward. Because I think we have a lot of cool stories to tell, and I think bringing more diversity into the field is like amazing. And I
Mhm.
love hearing about other people's stories and how they got to where they are. So I just think being a role model for like the next generation is like would be a really fulfilling uh, goal to have down the line, you
Mhm.
know? Like if someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, I got into this field because of you," I'd be like, "Ah, crap, I'm gonna cry," you know?
That's good
um,
though. That it elicits a strong
yeah.
emotional reaction.
Mhm. Or even like, you know, collaborating with other animators
Mm.
or you know, game writers or whatever to just tell more stories about like I can't relate to any other part of the world right the same way that people from there can, but
Mhm.
if someone came up to me being like, hey, we want to make a story about this part of the world, like Lebanon or Jordan or Armenia, you know, like I'd be like, oh, that's amazing, like please let
Yes.
me know what I can do if you need voices or anything, like I just want to create more stories that haven't been told, you know,
Mhm.
and be a part of that.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. I love that you
Yeah.
went with a very practical approach and then you got broader. But I think that
Yeah.
shows the vision and impact that you want to have. And that's why you can continue to ground and build your roots into an industry like this because you're not just doing it job by job, right? It's not just this
Mhm.
survival mindset, right? Or like a small dragon hoarding voiceover roles, right?
Mhm.
Instead, you're looking at this long term of where does this continue to go for you? Where do you want this to start
Mhm.
serving the goals and challenges and stories that you feel are vacant in these spaces? And I
Mhm.
think it takes vision for that. Now,
Yeah.
is it
Oh,
always going to be voice acting for you, or are you looking to dabble in a few other creative? Because you mentioned a little directing and
yeah. Well, I think acting is kind of always been what I've kind of focused
yes.
on, and then directing was kind of like a, oh, this is a way to like still be in the industry, still do something fun
Hmm.
that isn't the acting part and
Hmm.
kind of uses other muscles, mental muscles.
Yeah.
Um but like again, I think I'd love to have a career in directing too. Production I like. It's a lot of scheduling, which I'm not the most skilled at. So
No worries. No one's judging. Don't worry.
so again, like I think, kudos to to producers, to agents for organizing all that stuff. Organization is not a skill that I have. But again, so I think acting and directing is probably what I look forward to in the future.
Fair, fair.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of like moving out of this small box. You can revisit it whenever you want and you can stay there for the right roles out for you. But the chance to
Mhm.
stretch those creative wings of like, well, let's see
Yeah.
what is on this right side a little bit more. And then you can
Mhm.
turn and then you can try your left side since the right side is closed for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. But that's a chance because someone like you that uses both sides of your brains, like you like to be able to challenge yourself, to try new things again and again. And I
Mhm.
feel like voice acting or acting, right, is always going to be that common thread that will continue to take you
Mhm.
down to various opportunities that are not just those, but so many others as well,
Right.
especially as you work to open more of those doors for others, that you'll be leading a lot of those projects. Mm.
Hopefully.
Well, you'll be a great individual to have in there, especially with the thoughtfulness and heart that you have for it. Tell us, we're nearing the end of this, so I want to make sure we have time.
Yeah.
Where can we find you? How do we follow you? What are your next projects, right? What should we get excited for? Anything on the horizon, or should we be aware that something is on the horizon, but maybe we can't know yet? Go
Yeah.
ahead, dip our toes in the water a little here.
Um, okay, to answer where can you find me first?
Yes.
Instagram, I'm at Katiana Sarkissian. I don't know if, oh yeah. My handle for Twitter is below my name. So that's my Twitter one. But Instagram is Katiana, Katiana Sarkissian, which is Sarkissian. So full name is Instagram. Twitter is the at below my little square. I also have a Blue Sky. I'm not as active. I'm trying to get more active on there, but that's also my full name. And then I think the dash Blue Sky or whatever the thing
Link
is that
is,
Blue Sky does.
yeah.
um, in terms of projects, I can't talk about any upcoming ones, but there are upcoming ones, and um, I'm again with every project I'm always grateful for work. I always say that, but I've been really fortunate to have some wonderful wins since graduating a year and a half ago. So I'm really excited for you guys to learn more. That's all I'll say.
I love that. I love that. Okay, okay. So, in case anyone knows, in Instagram, or if you're looking at the Twitch chat right now, I put Instagram first, Twitter right after that. The Blue Sky got deleted because it's a link and I'm not a moderator, so I can't undo that. So, but trust me, Blue Sky is there, right? If you look up her name, you can find it. It's certainly searchable. So please, good friends, make sure you give a follow. That way you can stay in the know, especially for those upcoming projects. Now, I know we said there isn't a favorite, right? Before we go into
Mhm.
our final end, there's not a favorite character. But is there one that you would like to give us as a farewell voice for? If I may be so greedy to ask
I
for.
don't even. I'm trying to think because a lot of them are just my voice.
I love however you would
They're just
say
my,
it.
um,
I feel like it's fun when there's the extra pressure of like, do this on the spot. in your voice and however you want to say it, how would you say goodbye as we wrap up this wonderful stream?
Um,
I'll let you
well,
own
now
it.
I feel bad not giving a voice.
No, you don't have to. Now I feel terrible for putting that on there.
Okay,
Now
well,
we both just feel terrible.
Mermaid Barbie would probably be like, "Bye, everyone," and that would be it.
I love that.
That's
The
all I got.
pitch inflection, the slightly higher, it was adorable. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, good friends. Please make sure you give some follows. Yes, absolutely brilliant. Amazing. Thanks, Mermaid Barbie. It's so wonderful to have you drop in here. I thank you so much, Katiana. You were a hoot and a half. Thank you for bringing your insights, your guidance. Good friends, give follows on social media. Remember, this is your way to continue to not only just stay appraised of what our amazing guests are doing, but this is also a chance to make sure that your feeds, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or Blue Sky, stay filled with positive and amazing content. I know the doom scrolling is easy to do. Find individuals who are going to give you those breathers. Find individuals who are going to give you those palate cleansers, those inspirations, all right? There's enough challenges that we have in the week. Our social accounts should not be one of them. So here's an example of an amazing individual to put some more goodness in your life. And if anything, you always know you can join us every Monday here over on the Gamers channel for more amazing Pink Pixels. If anything, we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.